Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, today we are going to start Biochemistry chapter number 21 for the grade 12 second year. Grade 12 second year Biochemistry. We completed the organic section up to the chapter number 20. So, biochemistry, the branch of chemistry which is directly related to living organisms, concerned with the study of various molecules. They are present in living cells, living organisms. So, wide range of this one, very important because of it. Concerned with our life, so there are changing in environment and others. So in the biochemistry, the first topic is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, hydrates of carbon. Carbohydrates are polyhydroxy compounds. Poly means many. There are many hydroxyl groups. If you see the structure of glucose, polyhydroxy compounds of the aldehydes and ketones. If you see the carbohydrates, there are different types of carbohydrates. Mostly there are 4 types of the carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are saccharides. Most abundant of 4 types of saccharides. These are the sugars, starches. These are the polysaccharides. I am talking about this one. So including they are going to give energy, transportation, structural components, plants are fructose, carbohydrates, derived activity and fertilization, immune system, development of disease, blood clotting and growth. So classification of carbohydrates: monosaccharides. Monosaccharides are simple sugars. Simple sugars. Glucose. Glucose is a dextrose sugar. It is pentahydroxy aldohexose. There are 5 hydroxyl groups. That's why I say many hydroxyl groups. So glucose contains aldehyde functional group and it is called pentahydroxy aldohexose. Aldehyde, 6 carbon atoms. Fructose, same formula C6H12O6. It is pentahydroxy ketohexose. In the fructose there is a ketone. So dear students, these monosaccharides, simple sugars, do not hydrolyze. There is no hydrolysis in the simple sugars. So we refer to glucose in the blood. Glucose is a major source of energy of the cell. Naturally, honey, corn, human nutrition. Galactose can be found in the milk, dairy products. Fructose found in vegetables and fruit, grapes. So monosaccharides merge together to give many kinds of other we call polysaccharides. So monosaccharides can be further classified by the number of carbon present, hexose, pentose, triose, like this one, tetraose. So you can see the structures of open structure of glucose and closed structure of the glucose. You can see here, this is the aldehyde functional group, hydrogen with the carbon, and carbonyl group, this is the aldehyde functional group, aldehyde, 6 carbon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Hexose, 6 carbon atoms, and this is the carbon number 2. Hydroxyl group, hydrogen, hydroxyl group, then hydroxyl group, hydrogen, hydroxyl group, hydrogen, in the last CH2OH, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the pentahydroxy aldohexose open chain form. Open. This is the open structure of the pentahydroxy aldohexose. Pentahydroxy aldohexose. So there is how it is going to be formed, cyclic structure. This is the carbon number 6, CH2OH. This is the carbon number 5, there the OH, and hydrogen carbon number 5, and this is the carbon number 4. It has hydrogen and the hydroxyl group. This is the carbon number 4, and this is the carbon number 3. It has hydroxyl group and hydrogen, carbon number 3, and this is the carbon number 2, and it has hydrogen and OH, carbon number 2, this one, and this is the carbon number 1, which has a hydrogen and aldehyde. So these are going to be joined with each other. They are going to be joined. So how they are going to be joined? So I'm going to write in here again, CH2OH, same, carbon number 6. Then this is the carbon number 5, hydrogen. This is the carbon number 4, hydrogen, and OH. This is the carbon number 4. This is the hydrogen with the carbon number 4. Then carbon number 3, and this has the hydroxyl group and hydrogen, and there is a carbon number 2. This is hydrogen, same sequence, and OH. This is a carbon number 2, and there is a combination of carbon here. This is going to be oxygen, connect with carbon number 1, hydrogen and OH. This is the cyclic form. This is a cyclic form of the glucose. Cyclic form of the glucose. Like this. So dear students, if hydrogen is here up and hydroxyl is down, we call alpha D glucose. Alpha D glucose. If the hydrogen is up and hydroxyl group is down, then this is called alpha D glucose. And if you are going to draw the same and you are going to change hydroxyl group here and hydrogen here, then it is called beta D glucose, dextrorotatory. They are going to be rotate towards the plane of plane polarized light towards the right. They are called dextrorotatory. And other, they are going to be rotate plane of polarized light to the left. They are called levorotatory. So these are the D glucose, dextrorotatory, and this is the beta D glucose in the cyclic form. And if you put the hydrogen up, this is called alpha D glucose. So this is the structure of the open chain and the cyclic or closed chain of the aldehyde, pentahydroxyaldohexose. Then ketone, you must write them both. It's better to write again here. Change. I'm going to omit this. Now, fructose. Fructose is a pentahydroxy ketohexose. Pentahydroxy ketohexose. There is a ketone group. This is a ketone group. Carbon number 1, carbon number 2, and hydrogen, OH, carbon number 3, and carbon number 4, OH, hydrogen, 4, carbon number 5, OH, hydrogen, carbon number 6, and the last is a CH2OH. This is the pentahydroxy ketohexose. Fructose, this is the fructose. This is the open chain of pentahydroxy ketohexose. So when you are going to write in the cyclic form, closed form, so there is the oxygen, like this one, carbon, CH2OH. This is the carbon number 6 starting from here. This is the carbon number 6, CH2OH. And this is the carbon number 5. Carbon number 5. And this is the carbon number 4. This is the carbon number 3. Hydrogen. And carbon number carbon number 2. This is the carbon number 2. And this is the 3 and this is the carbon number 2 and this is the carbon number 1. Like this. This is the carbon number 1 and this is the carbon number 6, CH2OH, CH2OH. This is the carbon number 2. This carbon number 2 is connected with the carbon number 5. Carbon number 2 is connected with the carbon number 5. So this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the cyclic form of the fructose. Cyclic form of the fructose. Monosaccharides do not hydrolyze water. There is no hydrolysis. Simple sugar, crystalline form, white, sweet in taste, highly polar, soluble in water. Then there are the oligosaccharides. Oligosaccharides, they are starting from the 2 to 9 carbon atoms. So the very important are the disaccharides. Disaccharides. Disaccharides, these are the sugars. They hydrolyze one water molecule to give two simple sugars. Lactose, C12H22O11. Sucrose, lactose. I told you that disaccharides hydrolyze one water molecule to give two simple sugars. Sweet in taste, dissolved in water, white crystalline solids, lactose present in milk, sucrose occur in the sugar cane, sugar beet, mango, pineapple, almond and apricot. Polysaccharides, poly means many. Carbohydrates producing large number of monosaccharides upon the hydrolysis are called polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are starch and cellulose. Starch and cellulose are the example of the polysaccharides. It is a chain of two or more monosaccharides. The chain may be branched, may be straight. Molecules are like a tree with the branches of twigs, or unbranched molecule in a straight with no twigs. Just like you have a cellulose and also starch. Polysaccharides molecules chain may be made up of hundreds of thousands of monosaccharides. So monosaccharides, glucose, disaccharides, sucrose, polysaccharides, starch, galactose, is a monosaccharide, maltose, disaccharide, glycogen, polysaccharide. Fructose, ribose, glyceride, aldehyde, monosaccharides, disaccharide, lactose, cellulose is another example of polysaccharides. Glucose, already I told you, these are the monosaccharides. We call them pentahydroxyaldohexose, abundant in plants and animals. Fructose, monosaccharide in the fruit and honey. Ribose, monosaccharide, aldo and pentose, component of the ribonucleic acid in RNA and B12. This is 5 carbon atoms. Sucrose, disaccharides, they are going to be changed into 2 simple sugars. Wheat, commonly simply called sugar, and maltose, disaccharides, and there are 2 simple sugars, glucose and glucose, so they are present in malt. So these are some introduction about this one. Lactose, present in milk, glucose and galactose about hydrolysis. Starch, I told you, polysaccharides, stain of glucose units, plant storage organelles, potato, wheat, grain. Cellulose polysaccharides, a chain of sugar units linked differently to those of starch, structural material of the plants. So these are the types of carbohydrates. Classification of carbohydrates, mono, di and polysaccharides. Explanation okay, then functions. Function of carbohydrates. Article 12.12. Important functions. They spare protein so that protein can concentrate it on building, repairing and maintaining body tissues, instead of being used up as energy source. Number 2, for the fat to be metabolized properly, carbohydrate must be present. If these are not enough carbohydrates, then large amount of fat are used for the energy. The body is not able to handle this large amount of the energy consumption quickly. So it accumulates ketone bodies which make the body acidic, the cause condition called ketosis. Carbohydrates are necessary for the regulation of nerve tissues and is only source of energy of the brain. Certain types of carbohydrates support the growth of healthy bacteria in the intestine for digestion. Some carbohydrates are high in fiber, which helps prevent constipation and lower the risk of certain diseases such as cancer, heart disease or diabetes. So these are the functions of carbohydrates. Then, students, this topic is going to be complete. Then proteins. We start proteins. Fructose means most important, prime importance. Molecules which yield amino acids on complete hydrolysis are called proteins. Molecules which yield amino acids on complete hydrolysis are called proteins. Proteins are probably the most important class of biochemical molecule. That's why I told you prime importance. They have prime importance. Although of course lipids and carbohydrates are also essential for the life, Proteins are the basis for the major structural components of animal and human tissues. Proteins are natural polymer molecules consist of amino acids units. The number of amino acid protein may range from 2 to 7,000 amino acids may be present. These molecules contain nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. They act as a biological catalyst. Enzymes are the biological catalyst. They catalyze in our body. From structural parts of organism, participate in the cell signal and recognition factors, act as molecules of immunity. Protein can also be a source of fuel. Meat, protein, different concentration, there are parts. Classification of proteins. Yes. There are three classes here. Simple proteins, compound proteins, derived proteins. Simple proteins, these proteins on hydrolysis yield only amino acids. Only you will get amino acids upon hydrolysis or their derivatives, just like albumins, globulins, gelatins, histones. Number B, conjugated proteins. These proteins which are attached are conjugated to some non-protein group which are called prosthetic group. For example, nucleoproteins, macroprotein, glycoprotein, phosphoprotein. These are the conjugated proteins. Number C, derived proteins. Those proteins which are derived from simple and conjugated proteins are called derived proteins. Proteins, proteases, peptones and peptides. These are called simple proteins, conjugated proteins, derived proteins. Then structures of the proteins. Structure of protein depends upon the spatial arrangement of the polypeptide chains present in the protein. Since three spatial arrangements are possible, proteins have to form four structures. Number one is a primary structures. You can see page number 264. Primary structure of proteins you are seeing here. Glycine. The sequence of amino acids in the peptides chain is called primary structures. Sequence of amino acids straight in the peptide chain is called primary structure. Amino acids are linked with one another through the peptide bond. The arrangement of these acids is called a primary structure. You learn in the grade 10 peptide bond and also amino acids. B, the second structure of the proteins. Peptide chain may acquire spiral, zigzag manner. You can see second structure, zigzag manner. Of polypeptide is called secondary, and it is due to the hydrogen bonding. Tertiary structure is a more complicated. You can see it's a coiled one. Chain, tertiary structure protein, folding structure you can see. Quaternary proteins more complicated. This is the fourth phase in the creation of protein. Quaternary protein is the arrangement of multiple folding protein or coiling, I told you. Protein molecules in the a subunit complex, a variety of bonding interacting including hydrogen bonding, salt bridges and disulfide bonds hold the various chains into particular geometry. So students, these are the structures of proteins. I want to just tell you, put them in grade 10, amino acid. Then we must learn carboxylic acid. This is the alpha carbon. Next to the carboxylic acid, this carbon carboxylic, next carbon is called alpha carbon. And there is the amine. And there is a chain, alkyl chain and hydrogen. This is the amino acid. This is the amino acid. And there are many types of amino acids also. So this is the alpha amino acids, beta amino acids, but mostly we use this alpha amino acids. They are going to be combined to give the peptide bond. Now, after structure, properties. Properties of the proteins. Proteins are one of the four major groups of macromolecules that are found in all living organisms. All. These giant molecules carry out many of the vital functions needed by the cells. Proteins are involved in such process as a food digestion, cell structure, catalysis, movement, energy, manipulation, and much more are the uses of the proteins. They are complex, huge associations of molecular subunits that appear impossibly difficult to understand. Fortunately, they are all built using same construction principle. As with all macromolecules, proteins are polymers composed of smaller subunits. These are the amino acids joined together in the long chain. There are about 20 to 22 common amino acids. 20 to 22 common amino acids. We just need see 10. 10 are the essential amino acids and 10 are the non-essential amino acids. So non-essential amino acids, they are going to be synthesize our body, and the 10 amino acids must be taken from the diet. They are very important for us. So alkyl groups attached, amino acids are joined together. I told you this alkyl R group attached. Importance of proteins. Proteins play an important role in the formation of protoplasm. Protoplasm is the essence of all form of the life. Nucleoproteins are complex proteins and act as a carrier of heredity from one generation to other, DNA and RNA. Enzymes are called biological catalysts, and one chemical reaction catalyzed by one enzyme and act as a carrier of heredity. I told you earlier. Also catalyzed, these are also proteins. Without enzyme, life is not possible. Enzymes are the biological catalysts. I told you life is not possible. Hemoglobin, red blood cells, is a protein. Hemoglobin is a protein. It acts as a carrier of oxygen. That's why the amount of the hemoglobin, red blood cells must be maintained in the blood. Some of the protein acts as hormones. They carry out the regulatory function of the body. Proteins have great importance in industry. The tanning of hides in industrial process. The process is a precipitation of protein by tannic acid. Gelatin is obtained by heating bones, skins and tendons in water. It is used in the bakery goods. Casein protein is used in the manufacture of buttons and buckles. Proteins obtained from the soybean are used for the manufacture of plastics. So dear students, these are the 9 important uses of proteins in our daily life. That's why I told you it has a prime importance in our daily life. Quick quizzes, you can see what are the proteins, give its simple classifications, already we done. Differentiate primary, secondary and tertiary structure of protein given, and what are the polypeptides I told you earlier. So these are the proteins. We done for the chapter number 21 Biochemistry, Carbohydrates, and now we completed the proteins. So dear students, we are going to finish here, and inshallah we start the lipids in the next lecture. Lipids. So thank you very much, and you have to revise because of now the syllabus is going to be short, so you have to hard work for taking good marks. Thank you.